Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Behind the Mission, our monthly series where we discuss what it takes and what it's like to work in international development. I'm your host, Srimati Sridhar, and I'm looking forward to guiding you through today's conversation on how to find a career at the World Bank Group. This institution is complex and competition for jobs is high. So just how do you go about getting your foot in the door, whether you're just starting out or are a mid-career professional? Well, who better to talk to about all of this than our four panelists today who are recruiters at the World Bank Group. They'll be sharing with us their insights and best practices for navigating careers within the organization. Now, before we get started, I do want to encourage those of you that are tuning in to share your questions with us in the comments section of our LinkedIn chat. And you can also join us online using the hashtag BehindTheMissionWBG. We look forward to hearing from you. And with that, let's get started, and a warm welcome to our four recruiters who are here with us today from the World Bank and the International Finance Corporation, or IFC. Now from the IFC, we have Rudy Moreno and Mabel Udo, and from the World Bank, we have Najat Dawauji and Anna Frick. Now I've got a question here for each one of you to kick things off, and please feel free to introduce yourselves at that time. I'd like to first start with you, Najat, on the topic of recruitment. Now, we know that the World Bank Group is one institution, but recruitment at the IFC and at the World Bank is different. So can you tell us about those differences and how they affect getting a job here?
Certainly. Thank you, Sri. Again, my name is Najat Dawauji, and I come from Libya and Belgium. I've been working at the World Bank for almost now 10 years. Bonjour tout le monde. وأهلا وسهلا بالأخوة والأخوات العرب. So let me start talking about the World Bank Group. The World Bank Group consists of 5 organizations, which is IDA, IBRD, IFC, MIGA, and ICSID. Now that's a lot of acronyms, so you can go and visit our worldbank.org to learn more about these organizations. The largest is IBRD, also known as the World Bank, followed by the IFC. Now, the main business of the World Bank Group is to eliminate poverty. The difference between IFC and IBRD is that IBRD offers policy advice, loans, grants, and technical assistance to governments with middle income and low income countries, while the IFC, which is the biggest global development institution, it focuses exclusively on private sector in development countries, and it promotes private sector investments by local and foreign investors. Now let's talk about just the post-pandemic and what the World Bank has been doing. It has approved $12 billion for vaccines to vaccinate 1 billion people around the world in developing countries. And this is a package of about 160 billion devoted towards development, which will be spent by June 2021. Some of the positions that IBRD recruits for is economists, as well as specialists with infrastructure, which includes energy and extractives, transport, as well as health and education, besides other sectors. While the IFC recruits for investment positions, and that's investment specialists with backgrounds in agribusiness, finance, healthcare, and so forth. Now, both organizations recruit for the HR, human resources, communications, IT, which is international and information technology, legal, as well as accounting. Over to you, Sri.
Great. Thank you so much, Najat, and welcome. And Anna, let me now turn it over to you. Headquarters, as we know it, is located here in Washington, D.C., but we have staff that are located in over 130 offices around the world. So, seeing as we're looking to expand our global footprint, where are you primarily looking to hire in the future? And Anna, I think we just need you to unmute, please.
That's your rookie mistake. Thank you so much, Ree. Hejsan allihopa, ni som pratar svenska. So my name is Anna Frick. I'm from Sweden. And I've been at the World Bank Group since 2013, and I started my career at the IFC, the International Finance Corporation. So in terms of your question, Sri, we want to hire staff to be close to our client. That means in developing countries. So this is where we'll be hiring most in the future. And some of our biggest offices are located in India with almost 1,000 staff, Kenya, more than 300 staff, Indonesia and South Africa, more than 200 staff, and then Egypt, close to 200, just to mention a few. And we particularly want to increase the number of staff in fragile countries. And those are countries with institutional and social fragility, and also countries affected by violent conflict. Some examples of those countries are Afghanistan, Mali, Iraq, and Haiti. So as a staff member, you can expect multiple field assignments in developing countries, and most likely one in a fragile state. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Anna. And I mean, I think it's important for folks that are looking for jobs to know that the opportunities aren't just limited to DC, but really are, all around the world. Rudy, I'd like to turn it over to you now. In order to achieve our twin goals of ending extreme poverty and boosting shared prosperity, we have to be near our clients, and some of those clients are fragile states. Now, Anna was talking about this just now, but keeping this in mind, can you elaborate on what applicants could expect if they do get a job here at the World Bank Group?
Thank you, Sri, and bom dia a todo mundo. My name is Rudy Perecim Marenho, and I'm a talent attraction officer at the IFC, the International Finance Corporation, part of the World Bank Group. Thank you, Sri, for that question. I think that's very good and related to what Anna was just talking about. A lot of our hiring will be in fragile and conflict-affected situations, FCS, as we call the acronym here at the World Bank Group. If you're interested in knowing what those countries are, you can just Google very quickly World Bank Group list of FCS countries, and you'll see what those are. Now, obviously, people who live in these countries face issues such as failing infrastructure, high unemployment, difficult in finding a secure place to live. And according to our estimates, maybe by the year 2030, which is about a little less than 10 years from now, half the world's extreme poor will live in those countries. So this is where we need to focus our hiring as well, and focus all our efforts for the future. In the last 3 years, IFC, from 2016 to 2019, has already invested $7.6 billion in those countries. And we expect by the year 2030 that we'll have about 40% of our allocated annual commitments focusing on those countries as well. Now, what can someone expect, right, is what you were asking. Obviously, a lot of onboarding, right? We'll have special onboarding for people who are going to be mobilized into those countries. We'll have special training, right, including training that deals with security situations, right? And we also have support for their families, right? So we have a very strong association called the World Bank Family Network that provides support, and they do activities, events. It's really a collaborative community where the spouses of World Bank Group staff can offer each other advice and tips. Where are the best places to work and live, and what to do with your children and childcare. Obviously, we'll support with all those steps too. So that's what you can expect. Sometimes at IFC as well, we won't directly hire someone to one of those fragile countries, but we may position them, we may place them in countries that are nearby, and then they'll get to travel frequently to those fragile states. So that's what you can expect, more or less.
Great. Thank you so much, Rudy. Mm-hmm. And last but not least, Mabel, we get thousands of applications a year, and you guys know better than anyone what that process is like. So tell me, what makes for a competitive candidate?
Yeah, thanks so much, Sri. So very quickly, I will introduce myself. My name is Mabel Udor, and I'm British Nigerian. and I've been with the bank for 2 years. And yes, we do definitely receive thousands of applications, and candidates really do need that competitive advantage to make it to the top. So your resume and your cover letter, a lot of times people ask, what do I need to put on my resume, or what do I need to put on my cover letter so that it stands out? So just make sure you tailor your cover letter to stand out to the job requirement. Make sure you meet the basic criteria listed in the job description. So you would always see when we post a job, we have the roles and responsibilities. And then also below, you would see where it says selection criteria. So just take note of those selection criteria. Make sure you meet the selection criteria, because that's what will keep you on the top. A lot of candidates do not, the reason a lot of people do not make the shortlist is only because they do not meet the requirements of the role. But ultimately, a competitive candidate prepares for the interview by not just reading and understanding the details of the job description, but also you need to understand who we are, what we do, our project, our values, mission. A lot of time we ask candidates, they come into an interview and you ask, what do you know about IFC? What do you know about the World Bank Group? And shockingly, they haven't done their homework, meaning they haven't really prepared. So they haven't read up what we do. And you ask them, what do you think about our mission? What do we do? What do you think about our values? And they have no clue. Right there, you have lost it. So you need to do your homework, read about projects in the country you're interested in working in. So let's say you're applying for a role in Cairo. What is IFC, or what is the World Bank Group currently doing in Cairo? There are projects there. Read up about that. That gives you a competitive advantage, because when you are asked, you're giving examples, and these are real examples. And it shows the interviewer that, oh, wow, this candidate has actually really done their job. Also familiarize yourself with the STAR approach. I don't know how many of us know about the STAR approach in terms of is a type of interview approach. Situation, what was the situation? A lot of times, interviews are behavioral and competency based. So we want to know that you really, really know the job, or you have the competencies required to be successful in that job. So read up what the requirements are, pick up examples, real examples, what you've done before in the past, and just use that approach. And the STAR, basically what it means, STAR, is situation. What was the situation? The task, what task or goals did you put in place? Action, what actions did you take to meet the set goals or the result? And then the last one is just result, which is R. What were the measurable results based on your actions? So a lot of times, you're asked, tell us about a time you did this. Tell us about a time you did that. Make sure you really prepare. Pick out live examples, what you've done, and make sure you follow this approach. Remember, situation, task, action, result. Everyone wants to know what you've achieved, what your achievements are. So result is key and very, very important. And those are the kind of things that, gives you the competitive advantage over the next applicant. So prepare.
Yeah, so do your homework and the STAR approach. Some really useful tips there, Mabel. Thank you so much. Folks, if you're just joining us, you are watching Behind the Mission, where today I'm speaking with 4 recruiters from the World Bank Group: Rudy Moreno, Mabel Udo, Anna Frick, and Najat Dawauji. They're here to share with us their tips and insights for navigating careers within the World Bank Group. Now, if you joined us late or you have to leave early, don't worry. We will have a replay up of today's chat that you can watch back at your leisure. It'll be available right here on our page. Now, I want to take a moment now to actually ask our panelists some of the questions that have been coming from you, our online audience. I see here we have a question from Fadilha in Tanzania, who says, it's been more than 6 months since I applied for a position, but there's been no feedback since. The status still shows as in review. How long does a bank group take to provide feedback on the status of an application? Can I turn this question over to you, Najat?
Sure, Sri. Well, thank you, Fadila, for that question. And it is an important question, because here in the World Bank Group, we strive to fill a position in less than 90 days from the day that we post the vacancy. So if you have been waiting, quite a few months, that's probably, we have a good reason that a decision has not yet been made. As you know, and previously I said that it is very, very competitive, and we do receive multiple, sometimes in the thousands of applications for one position.
Thank you so much, Najat. Our second online question is from Kuok Tudkwe, who asks, how diverse is the bank's workforce? Rudy, can I turn this question over to you?
Sure. So very diverse. I think there's very few institutions out in the world today that are as diverse as we are. And to me, it's fascinating. I'm Brazilian, originally from Brazil. But just walking down the hallways, you get to see people from all over. Going in to eat in our cafeteria, you hear all these languages. We have like about 120 languages spoken, daily within our building. It's fascinating. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking with some of the brightest minds from Australia to Singapore, and they all have a different way of doing things. A different experience from what they used to do in their country. It's rich. You have 4 separate generations working all under the same roof. So it's, to me, it's a very multicultural, very diverse, fun place to work where you constantly have, new ideas and new ways to see things.
Rudy, Najat, thank you so much for answering those online questions. And let's keep the conversation going by continuing to take a closer look at what applicants can do to get started here. So Anna, I'd like to actually pivot to you now for my next question. Let's look at a scenario where someone says, I've tried applying for several jobs, but I haven't been successful. And it's something you hear often, right? Of someone who thinks they're doing all the right things, but they're just not making headway. Can you share some advice on what an applicant should do to be successful?
With pleasure. Thank you, Sri. First of all, I want to say that we would love to get back to everyone that emails us directly or through LinkedIn and ask very relevant questions and so on. And we just simply don't have the capacity to do that. But we really hope that through this session that we will answer all of your questions, or at least most of them. So number one, I will reiterate what Mabel said because it is so important. Please look so closely at the selection criteria. This is very important. I know our TORs can be very long, but that is maybe the most important part for you to decide whether you're going to apply or not. So if the role requires a master's degree and 5 years of experience, don't apply if you have 3 years of relevant experience and a bachelor's degree. It is wasting your time. So I would be encourage you to look closely at the selection criteria, and then tailor your CV and cover letter to the selection criteria, to the specific job. Research has shown that recruiters or whoever is doing shortlisting for a job will spend 6 seconds on a CV to decide if it goes in the yes or no pile. So it is very important that you highlight the relevant experience for this specific job you're applying for in the CV. And then in the cover letter, you can, for example, summarize the relevant experience and then add a personal touch or story or share your passion for this job, and also explain why you want this particular job and why you would be a good candidate. So that is in terms of the CV. And then also bear in mind that many people start their career at the World Bank Group as a consultant. We call it STC, short-term consultant, or STT, short-term temporary. And some of these jobs we also post on LinkedIn. So keep your eyes on that. And you may even want to set up a job alert for LinkedIn. But all other jobs, they are shared on our careers website where you can find them. And then also to increase your understanding of the World Bank Group and maybe other areas as well, take advantage of our open learning campus. We will share all the relevant links we are talking about now after this session. So don't worry, we will send you all of that. We will share it on our social media. And by the way, follow us on social media and look at our website and start, if you haven't already, to learn about all our different projects and initiative and so on. And then finally, if you do not fulfill the selection criteria, work towards this by, for example, work in a fragile country if that is the requirement. Work towards additional training, education. Maybe you need specific language skills, etc. So that would be my final advice. Thank you.
And some really good advice there. Thank you so much, Anna. And Mabel, I want to now turn it over to you. Tell me, what are different ways to get your foot in the door here? I think knowing what the different avenues are for employment could be really helpful.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sri. There are, and you're right, yes, there are different ways to join the World Bank Group. I would take us through 4 ways very quickly, which are the standard ways to join the World Bank Group. And when we say the World Bank Group, obviously we know what we're talking about as World Bank, which is also known as IBRD, IFC, MIGA, ISKID idea, and all that. So number 1 is the summer, and I'm going to start probably from the, as descending when I say or ascending, summer and winter internships. So we do have internships, but we do have the summer and we have the winter. So depending on your school calendar, if you need to do an internship program over the winter period, which is from October, November, December, January, February, you can apply, to that set of internship program. If your summer internship program, based on your school calendar falls over the summer period, most especially I think Europe and Africa most of the time, then you target the summer internship program. So these are very standard. Check our website for application timelines, but please note that these programs are for graduates, meaning you must be studying towards your master's degree. So do check the timeline requirements on our career site for both IBRD and IFC. So we do have different timelines. So check our website for those timelines. The second way to join would be the Young Professional Program. I know a lot of people know our Young Professional Program, and obviously this is our flagship program. But this is now known as the World Bank Group YPP. That's the World Bank Group Young Professional Program. Sometime in June, effective June this year, effective June 2020, the World Bank and IFC merged their respective young professional programs. So now we have one, but in summary, what that means is the YPP is a 2-year leadership development program at the start of a 5-year employment contract. Please note, you will start in Washington, D.C. And then this would have subsequent rotations, across other regions, other countries, but please note you will have to start in DC. For this reason, application is now closed for this season. Obviously, application started in June 2020, and right now, I think we're just rounding up interviews and selection is ongoing. So if you missed this session, or if this wasn't your session because you're actually currently studying or you've already graduated, please note the next season would be open this year, June 2021, 1st of June. So watch out for that application timeline. The other way, also remember, candidates should be, you have to be willing to relocate, because it's not just, you wouldn't just have to work in DC or in Europe. You wouldn't really have, your own choice. Oh, I want to join the YPP, but I can only work in London. No, that's not what the YP program is. It is a leadership program, so rotations are mandatory. You would have to move around regionally. The other one is the consulting opportunities. I think Anna also mentioned about STCs and ETC. So please note, this is a route to actually come in. A lot of people are term employment today because they came in as consultant. But do note the difference between an STC and an ETC, a short-term consultant and an extended term. So the difference has to do with the duration. Short-term, as it implies, means it's short-term. And that could have, it does have a limit of 150 days a year, while the extended year program has a maximum of 2 years. So as the name implies, short-term is shorter, obviously, in terms of duration. So when you apply, note that, for a short term is only maximum of 150 days. The last one I would like to go through is staff positions, obviously, which is term employment. So yearly, note, we do post hundreds of full-time positions on our career page, usually between 2 to 3 years in terms of contract. And also, I would advise, if you're interested in any of these opportunities, please set up job alerts. You would be surprised that a lot of people that are staff today or got opportunities today came in because they got that job alert email. And we do run reports to see where our source of hire is from. And job alerts does have a high number. So set up job alerts. If you're interested in an economist position, set up a job alert for all economist positions that would be open in the World Bank Group. If there are certain locations you're interested in, click those locations so that when positions in those locations are posted, you would have it. You would get the email alert, and then you can apply accordingly. And I think Anna also mentioned for the ETs and STs, the ETs are posted on our career website, so you would find those opportunities there. However, the short-term consultant are not posted on our website. So follow us on LinkedIn, follow the World Bank, follow IFC, follow me, follow us on LinkedIn and other social media platforms, because we do post those positions there so that when they're available, you would have them. And please know, you can also set up job alerts on LinkedIn. So go ahead and set up those job alerts too, if you're interested in any of those roles. Thanks, Ree. So those are the 4 ways very quickly.
That's great. Mabel, Anna, thank you so much. And I actually want to mention right now, we have about 1,500 people that are watching us live right now. So it's great to have you all here with us. And, we're so glad that you're here, hopefully getting your questions answered. But, feel free to post any questions you have in our comments section of our chat. And, we will get back to you. Now, before we get to the end of the program, I do want to take a few moments here to get all of your reactions to some common myths around working at the World Bank Group. Now, you can react to any of these, but let's get started with the first myth, which is that you have to have a PhD to work here. Is that true or is that false? Najat, let me turn it over to you.
Yeah, well, as Anna said, the selection criteria is very important. That you need. And what that means, it means what are the requirements needed for that position. Some positions do require PhDs, but some don't. But the minimum requirement that is needed is a master's degree for many of our positions. So without a master's degree, you will not be able to be selected for the position or even longlisted.
Great, thanks, Najat. Myth 2 is that you need to know someone to get a job here. True or false?
Thank you, Sri. Yes, I would say absolutely no, and I'm evidence of that. I knew no one at the World Bank Group, and I knew no one in Washington, D.C., where I'm based when I joined the World Bank Group. And actually, most people that I speak to, they have the same story to tell. So, and of course, our hiring processes are very thorough, and that should not matter at all if you know someone or not. So don't even think about that if that is something that has worried you in the past.
Good. And our final myth is that you need to have an Ivy League education to work at the World Bank Group. Rudy, what do you think?
Yeah, I could take that question. Shri, no, actually, absolutely not a requirement. It's a false. We hire people from all over, right? And we have so many country offices around the world that we're constantly hiring from everywhere, right? People may have studied in Ivy League, and we do hire people from Ivy League. We hire from people from other universities. So it's not necessarily where you studied, but what you've done with that study that probably will prepare you better for selection to our roles. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, a huge thank you to our panelists for busting some of these myths around working here at the World Bank Group. It's always very good information to keep in mind. And now for the final part of the program, I'd like to turn it over to all 4 of you with this last question. Briefly tell me, what is the one takeaway or piece of advice that you'd like to offer to our viewers that are watching with us right now? And Mabel, let me start first with you.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, very quickly, first advice and maybe big takeaway here is applying for a job, because obviously you want to, you have a passion for international development, and it's your dream to work in the World Bank Group. So first takeaway would be, when you're applying for that job, please go through that selection criteria. It's really, really important. Make sure you meet almost all the selection criteria before you apply, so that you don't fall into, the whole of applying for 70 jobs, within 1 month, 2 months. So make sure you go through your selection criteria. Make sure you write a very good cover letter as well. I think Anna gave us the tips. Your first paragraph should just be briefly introducing yourself. Next one, talk about your motivation. Why do you want to join World Bank Group? Why do you want this job? And then talk about your achievements too. List all those in your cover letter. That would be the best advice to give right now, because I know audience out there, everyone is keen to work here. Just make sure you put in your best CV and your best cover letter all the time.
Thank you so much, Mabel. And let me go next to you, Najat. What is your piece of advice?
Absolutely. So I would say that do not apply to every position that you see. Apply to the positions once you read through it and you see the selection criteria. If you feel that this is written for you and you have the right profile, you will fit right into it. So that is extremely important. The other thing is, I just want to say that working at the World Bank is a privilege. I have traveled and lived around the world, and coming to the World Bank, I felt like coming home. So it is a really wonderful place to be working at. Thank you.
And that's a very lovely sentiment. Thank you, Najat. And Rudy, let me now turn it over to you for your one takeaway.
So my tip would be to do strategic networking, right? Obviously, everyone talks about networking and you feel like you need to click on LinkedIn and invite everyone to be your connection and see who connects with you. And I think that's just not the right approach. You can be more strategic than that. So for example, let's say your focus is on education. You can go to our disclosures page and take a look at our education projects, right? See the countries that perhaps you may have some experience in. Maybe read up about those projects and see who the team leaders are, right? So then, your approach would be more strategic to kind of approach those team leaders, right? And you would have already done some of the research, so you'd have something interesting to talk to them about instead of just saying, hey, I'm looking for a job, right? So, and maybe based on the work you're doing and the research you've done, you find actually ways that whatever, maybe research you're doing could connect to that project. So that would be a more strategic way to connect and a better way perhaps to network as well.
Thank you so much, Rudy. And last but not least, Anna, would love to hear your advice.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My advice would be do not give up. And if you don't meet the selection criteria, get the relevant experience that you need. So for example, in my own case, I actually changed jobs to become more competitive to the World Bank. And I called it a stepping stone, and it worked because I got the job on my third trial. I actually checked and saw myself that I've applied for 3 jobs, and I got my third job at the World Bank that I applied for. And as Mabel said, sign up to job alerts. I actually was made aware of the job I applied for through a job alert that was sent to my email address. Thank you.
And thank you all. I think this is a very inspiring note to end on. Don't give up. Folks, that was Anna Frick, Rudy Moreno, Najat Dawaji, and Mabel Udo, our 4 World Bank Group recruiters who joined me today for this episode of Behind the Mission. I want to thank the 4 of you for what was a very informative and also helpful conversation on finding a career at the World Bank Group. And hey, a big thanks to you, our online audience, for taking the time to be with us too. We hope our conversation has helped answer some of your questions around recruitment at our institution and has also inspired you to join us in our work to end poverty. Now remember, if you joined us late or you just want to watch back today's conversation, you can do so right here after the show ends. A replay will be available, and we'll also be sharing all relevant links from the chat. Now you can continue to follow the conversation online using the hashtag BehindTheMissionWBG, and be sure to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And don't forget, you can always check the latest job openings on our job site. It was great being with you here today. I'm Srimati Sridhar, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.